Councillors, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to our council meeting for the 4th of June 2024. In the event of an emergency, the building may be evacuated. You'll be required to vacate the building by the rear entrance and gather at the breezeway between the library and art gallery buildings. This is council's designated emergency muster point. Under no circumstances is anyone permitted to re-enter the building until all clear has been given and the area deemed safe by authorised personnel. In the event of an evacuation, a member of council staff will assist any persons present with a disability to vacate the building. Any apologies, Mr. CEO?
No apologies tonight. Councillor Kinghorn is, however, on Teams.
I have a move that we accept that. Thank you, Councillor Floyd, seconded by Councillor Peterson. All those in favour? Against? Carried. This council meeting is being live streamed and recorded. By speaking at this council meeting, you agree to be live streamed and recorded. Please ensure that if and when you speak at this council meeting that you ensure you are respectful to others and use appropriate language at all times. Orange City Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this council meeting. A recording of this council meeting will be made for administration purposes. I would like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people who are the traditional custodians of the land. I'd also like to pay respect to elders both past, present of the Wiradjuri Nation and extend that respect to other Aboriginal Australians who are present. Councillors, any declarations? Councillor Evans.
Mr. Mayor, I'll declare a significant non-pecuniary interest in item 4.6 as I have a business affected by Easter closing period, and item 6.1 as I have a customer referred to in the report. Thank you. I'll be leaving and not voting on both items.
Councillor Floyd.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I have a non-pecuniary, non-significant interest in notice of motion 4.4, hockey centre budget allocation, as my daughter is currently playing for OAGs at the hockey complex, but I will stay and I will vote on the issue.
Any others, councillors? Councillor Kinghorn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a significant pecuniary interest in PDC item 2.2 as my husband has done work for this site.
Thank you. Any others? Councillors, late item permitting... councillors, there's one late item before you. Will need the resolution to permit the report to be heard at this meeting in a closed session. Item 6.410 to F4180 Orange Sports Precinct, irrigation, drainage and establishment of multi-purpose fields and turf cricket squares. Can I have moved by Councillor Whitten, seconded by Councillor Miletto? All those in favour? Against? Carried. Councillors, I'll adjourn the meeting for the conduct of the open forum. We have 4 speakers. We'll go to item 4.2 first, which is notice of motion Sports Precinct Athletics Track. Mr. Michael O'Mara, if you could come up to the lectern, please, Michael. I'll just introduce the councillors before you start, Michael. Online, we've got Councillor Kinghorn, Councillor Whitten, Councillor Greenhalgh, Councillor McDonald, Deputy Mayor Gerald Powell, Councillor Powell, Councillor Mallard, Councillor Peterson, Councillor Duffy, Councillor Floyd, Councillor Evans and Councillor Miletto. You've got 5 minutes, Mr. O'Mara.
I'll only take 2, Mr.
Beautiful,
Mayor.
thank you.
Mr. Mayor and councillors, I'm Michael O'Mara from the Orange Runners Club. I'm here as a support to, unfortunately, the representative, the Vice President of Little Athletics, just recently had a passing in his family. He couldn't come in at the last minute to speak. That, look, first introduction is to the council in support of the athletics precinct as part of the overall sports precinct. Thank you to the councillors and the staff for the support you've given to athletics as a project. And in terms of the motion that's before the meeting, is the idea is to, as tabled by Councillor Peterson, is to bring forward or schedule as part of the construction just the athletics track. The unfortunate part at the moment is Little Athletics are the Barumban track and field people. The difficulty for them is that they have a restricted licence agreement with Waratahs. They cannot compete there or compete on a year-round basis. They only get use of the track at Waratahs and have to market and pay for the marking of all that track for a period of the summer. If you go back up there, as we took some photos to show for the Steve Kemper, the Sports Minister, it's a soccer field now in the winter period. So the real issue for them is they can't apply for grants, they can't apply for any infrastructure of any type. They can't get any support. Also, to the longer term thing for it is, and my background's in athletics and senior athletics, and is to get a major athletics track here. And once you have an athletics track, it flows on in terms of the quality of the athletes and the condition that they have. The kids running here on the 400 metre track, it's a lovely grass track for a soccer field, but it's not really good for the kids. 3 or 4 of the kids went to the national championships in Adelaide and did very well. So if we have the facilities, we have coaches, and particularly Jeremy Wallace, who was going to speak here tonight, an excellent coach. So look, I fully support the motion that Steve's put up, and I'd like to thank the council unilaterally for all their support and encouragement. And thank you, Mr Mayor, you personally yourself, as seeing the athletics as part of the sporting precinct. That's not to say we still need and we fully support the rugby league and the rugby grandstands, but we're only asking for a track as part of the first process. Thank you very much, councillors, and I hope you have a good meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr O'Mara. Our second speaker is online. It's Mr Greg Page from Heart of the Nation for notice of motion AED installation partnership. Mr Page.
Good evening, Mr Mayor, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak in support of this motion. Yes, my name is Greg Page. I'm the founder and CEO of Heart of the Nation. I was the original Yellow Wiggle. I suffered a sudden cardiac arrest just over 4 years ago, and I was fortunate to survive because bystanders were able to call, push, shock. 3 very simple things that any bystander can do without any training whatsoever. And one of the missions of Heart of the Nation is to ensure that more people in the community are able to do just that by helping to facilitate the implementation of AEDs in the community. Now, for those of you who don't know, a sudden cardiac arrest is not the same thing as a heart attack. They're 2 different events. A heart attack is a plumbing problem in the heart. Cardiac arrest is an electrical problem with the heart. And when a cardiac arrest occurs, CPR is vital, but just as vital is the presence of an AED or automated external defibrillator to reset that electrical system of the heart. And that must be done within a rapid period of time before that electrical activity disappears. So having close proximity to an AED when somebody goes into cardiac arrest is vital for saving lives. The statistics of sudden cardiac arrest are terrible. 26,000 Australians experience a sudden cardiac arrest every year. 5% survive, so 1 in 20 survive. 95% do not get to go home to their families like I did. That's why I started Heart of the Nation, to raise awareness and to help facilitate the implementation of the solution in the community. So Heart of the Nation has a program, and we'd like to work with Orange Council on this, whereby 6 very simple steps. The first step is to map the existing AED locations in the community. We operate a national register of AEDs at Heart of the Nation, and they're shown on an app that's downloadable. We'd like to help improve the signage and the visibility of AEDs and the accessibility of them to the community as well, so that they're accessible 24/7, not just in business hours, because unfortunately cardiac arrest is not courteous. It doesn't care what time of the day or night it is. It will strike anyone, anywhere, anytime. Once we've mapped the AEDs and made them more accessible, we'll identify the gaps and where they exist. And one thing I like about Orange is that you have a park within 200 metres of most homes in the area, which is ideal because we'd like to see an AED within 200 metres of every residence in Australia. It's a pretty bold vision, but with visionary people like yourselves in Orange, we can help make this happen. 80% of cardiac arrests occur at home. So think about when you're at home, where your nearest AED might be. It might be your local grocery store, gymnasium, RSL club. It's not going to be within 3 to 5 minutes. And if you have an AED within 3 to 5 minutes, the chances of survival increase drastically. So that's why placing AEDs within 200 metres of homes will present a great benefit to the community. So after we've identified the gaps in the community and been able to fill them, we want to help the council and the residents fundraise for more AEDs to go into the community. We have a fundraising program for residents to chip in and purchase an AED for their street or their local park. Then we'll install the new AEDs with the help of the council and train and recruit responders for the app. The Heart of the Nation app has a program where you can sign up to become a responder and receive alerts and notifications of nearby cardiac arrest events. And you can go and retrieve the AED and take it to the person who needs the benefit of that AED, the responder who's helping that person. And by doing this, we can also educate the wider community through your channels, through community channels, about cardiac arrest at localised CPR and AED education, information and awareness sessions. I held one of these recently at the Orange Ex-Services Club because Phil Donato has a 24/7 accessible AED outside of his electoral office. So training the community is one thing, but providing the tools that they will need to save a life in the form of AEDs is just as equally as important. So I fully support this motion that's being put forward tonight. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak very briefly tonight about this. I think it's a wonderful initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poach. Our next speakers is notice of motion 4.4, consideration of Hockey Centre budget allocation. Our first speaker is Mr. Darren Marjoram.
Thank you, Mayor. Esteemed councillors, council staff, CEO and respect. Thanks for your commitment to our vibrant city. As a proud Orange native with deep roots in this community, I stand before you today to advocate for a cause close to our hearts, is the revitalisation of the Smith Hockey Field. Why is this revitalisation so important? Well, safety and wellbeing first and foremost. Our current field poses risks to participants, especially concerning soft tissue injuries and abrasions and scratches when people fall on it. Upgrading it will ensure a safer environment for players of all ages, genders. Equity and competitiveness. Our junior athletes deserve the same quality surfaces. So Lithgow, Parks, Bathurst, Dubbo all have water-based services. Orange does not. Community engagement. The hockey field has long been a hub for healthy living, camaraderie and skill development. However, it's time to meet modern standards. Visiting teams who come to play on our surface comment on its willingness to play elsewhere. Numbers speak. Over 1,000 participants that benefit from the current field contribute to improved health and wellbeing. Our passionate Orange hockey community has already raised of the 1.45 million. So that demonstrates quite a significant commitment from current members, current President Janine and former presidents gone by. Our project includes a cutting-edge artificial water-based hybrid surface, the same surface that's used in the Paris Olympics this year. It's green componentry, such as fibres made from sugarcane mulch. Fibres that are, the ethanol that's in the fibres is derived from sugarcane mulch, not petrochemicals out of the ground. We also will be harvesting water to use in a non-potable format, and as you're probably aware, synthetic surfaces require less water, herbicides and maintenance than a natural grass field. Why a hybrid surface? All-weather reliability. We did lend our field out to one of the soccer teams during that period, that winter, where a lot of sports were called off. Services. Safe surface and minimises abrasions, and its project will bring the field up to FIH standards, which it's currently not. Some of the benefits, not only to the members of the sport, include enabling our juniors to practice and compete on a level, equal playing field with counterparts in other regional areas, and also will benefit to Orange be able to host state championships, which attracts a lot of funds to local businesses, and there's also sponsorship opportunities and opportunities for local businesses to collaborate. So investing in the Smith Hockey Field benefit enthusiasts, but also our local community, and for the opportunity to speak about this motion. And I hope that you allocating hopefully 200,000 towards the budget. Shortfall beyond that, we've already started the process of.
Thank you, Mr. Marjoram. Our next speaker is Janine Wassell-Toner from the Orange Hockey Association.
Hi, thank you to the Mayor, Councillors, CEO, Council staff and the members of the public. We thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm the current president of the Orange Hockey Incorporate. I personally have been playing hockey since I was 8 years old and I still play today. Those 42 years I have seen the Hockey Centre grow and change. I vividly remember when the original synthetic turf was laid on the Smithfield in 1991. The difference this turf will make to our hockey community will be immense. Our 2023 participation figures were as follows. We had 418 adult members, 359 12 to 18-year-olds, 187 under 11-year-olds, and 53 officials, coaches, managers and volunteers, totalling 1,107 members. 67.8% of them were female and 32.2% of them were male. This gives us the biggest participation numbers in the Central West, with Lithgow having 424, Bathurst 868, Dubbo 184 and Parkes 492. Those numbers are back to our pre-COVID numbers and we are growing each year. With this being an Olympic year, historically our numbers will grow substantially if our hockey teams go well. Orange has always been known to be a force in the hockey community. Just last year alone, our women's masters took 6 teams to the Women's State Championships, one of the biggest contingencies to play. And that is just our women aged 34 and above. This injection of $200,000 will help us reach our goal of laying our new turf. We have raised $600,000 ourselves and have also been given a $330,000 grant from the New South Wales Government. Together with a final push and fundraising, we would hope to start the process in September so that we could have the turf completed and ready for play for the 2025 winter season. We thank you for your consideration and we hope you can look favourably upon our plight.
Thank you very much. The council meeting will now resume. Item 2.1, Mirror Minutes Country Mayors Association General Meeting, 10th of May. Can I have a mover?
Move that, Mr Mayor.
Seconder. Thank you, Mr Duffy. Councillor Duffy. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 21st of May 2024. Can I have a
Move the
mover?
minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Floyd. Thanks, Councillor Peterson. Any speakers? There being no speakers, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The council meeting will now adjourn for the conduct of the policy committees. I will now hand over to Councillor Whitten for the Planning and Development Policy Committee.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to open the Planning and Development Committee meeting on the 4th of June 2024 with the time being around 10 to 7. Declarations of interest. Councillor Kinghorn, was yours in PDC or another item? Yep.
No, 2.2.
2.2. Item 2.1 is item approved under delegated authority of council. Have a mover. Been moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Miletto. Any discussion on this item? Councillor Miletto.
Is it appropriate time or would you prefer
To raise what?
that arising?
With regard to delegated authority or?
Yes.
Yeah, no, you can do that now. I'll put the motion first, and then I'll get you to do it then. Sorry to confuse you. Any further discussion on the? No further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Melito, what's your matter arising with this particular item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a matter relating to an issue something which appeared in Central Western Daily yesterday and which is approved under delegated authority, and I refer to the cutting down of the historical pin oak tree located at 5 Borrowdale Drive, Orange. Councillors recall that ratepayers contributed approximately $12,603.51 towards the investigation into why the historical pin oak mysteriously died. Since then, the community has been asking questions regarding the outcome of the investigation, which has not been released to the general public. On the 21st of May, which is about 10 days ago, I received a text message from a person whose name will remain anonymous concerning the alleged, he states, was a poisoning of the pin oak tree at Borrowdale Drive. And he went on to say if council is too slow to act on this type of report of vandalism, a stand has to be made. He went on to say that the report commissioned by council should be made public, and finished by saying yours faithfully, and his name has been withheld by myself. I'm not sure whether the writer obtained his information stating that the tree had been allegedly where he obtained his information that the tree had allegedly been poisoned. I never asked him. However, story which appeared in Central Western Daily, also from an information which I received from numerous members of the community who contacted me, requested that the results of the independent investigation be made public. I personally still maintain that Orange City Council needs to demonstrate transparency here, and I request a response from the CEO in regards to the issue.
So, just for process, what is your question?
My question is this information or the investigation be able to be made public, as has been requested by numerous members of the community? Yes, I am.
It's a matter arising. It's not a motion. We're going to ask a question, but yeah. Is the CEO or the director like to answer that question?
Just because it's off the floor, I will take that on notice. I did a few days ago communicate to councillors about the fact that the matter had been approved under my delegations, but I will take that legal question on notice so we can get it right.
Thank you. And a further question, I understand that it's commercial in confidence. Just wondering, as far as process is concerned, if a matter is commercial in confidence, is then the report not able to be obtained under a GIPA?
Again, I'll take that on notice. In this case, it was not commercial in confidence. It was put in closed because of the legalities around it. But again, I'll take it on notice and we'll get a full answer to council.
Thank you very much.
You good with that, Councillor Melito?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 2.1. Items approved under... we've done that one. Item 2.2.
Councillor Kinghorn.
Councillor Kinghorn.
There you go.
Okay, items 2.2, Orange LEP amended 40 post-exhibition report. Recommendation is on page 13. Councillor Duffy moving it. Councillor Mallard seconding. Any discussion? No discussion. Councillor Peterson.
I just wanted to speak in support of the recommendation as someone who regularly works at the base hospital precinct. Additional services near one of Orange's biggest employers would be quite valuable both to workers on site and also to the expanding population in the area.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Councillor Duffy.
Mic's not working.
It's not working.
Phone's not working, Councillor.
Councillor Duffy.
It's not working.
You sabotaged your
Always
microphone
give me duds.
purposely.
I think it's really appropriate this time to push this through as quickly as possible. I think when you look at on the weekend, you look at the supermarkets around here, they were jam packed on the North Orange. They were jam-packed in the centre of town. And I think one out the South Orange, which a lot of people have been asking for it happen. My only concern is it might be a little bit too small. I just hope it's big enough and have a big enough parking area to cater, because a lot of the parking areas on the north just parked along the side of the current parking areas there, especially around about Christmas and Easter and those periods there.
Duffy, any further speakers? Look, I'll speak for the motion as well. When this first came out during the last council, fully supportive of that particular area getting this type of facility, especially for the health precinct, because as we know, and it's been mentioned by Councillor Peterson, that we have a number of health workers who are out there doing long hours who don't get the opportunity to facilitate any shopping for their families and have to do it once they travel back into town, if they indeed live in this direction. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? The motion is carried. That concludes the PDC, and I will invite Councillor Evans to conduct the Infrastructure Policy Committee and close the meeting at about 3 minutes to 8.
Councillor Kinghorn. Here we are.
Yep, I'm back. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Whitten. I'll open the Infrastructure Policy Committee meeting for the 4th of June at 5 to 7. No declarations of pecuniary interest. We'll move to item 2.1, which is the minutes of the Orange City Traffic Committee meeting on page 5.
Happy to move it.
I'll second.
Councillor Miletto, Councillor Hammerling to second. Any discussion on the Traffic Committee meeting? Councillor Peterson.
Thank you. I wanted to make a matter arising from the Traffic Committee, and that matter being, does Summer Street have a green corridor arrangement for traffic lights, so that if you get one green light, you're likely to roll through the subsequent traffic lights all on green? Hopefully it would reduce congestion and pollution. Is there, if it doesn't exist, is there any benefit to a traffic engineer review of the traffic flow on that street?
Street.
Summer Street, was it, Councillor Peterson? Director Greenham.
I don't believe there is one, but I'll contact Transport for New South Wales, so I'll take that on notice.
Thank you. Further questions on Traffic Committee meeting? Being none, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Move on to item 3.1, current works report on page 16. Can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Whitten.
Chairman.
Councillor Floyd seconded. Thank you. Any discussion on the current works? Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to provide a little bit of feedback. I've heard from several of the residents around the Mulder Hill Street intersection, and I know that the wider community, there may have been a bit of disruption with traffic flow while that roundabout's being put in, but the feedback from the residents around the area is they're very thankful to the workers there and to council and the way they've been communicated with and how the whole process is happening. So I just wanted to pass on that positive feedback.
Thank you. Further questions on current works?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just want to comment on the work being done outside the airport. That road out to the airport now is a massive improvement on what we had before, and I think once that work's done outside the actual airport terminal there, it'll complement what we've done already. Great. I just want to ask a question about the stormwater harvesting too, and just get a report on where we're up to.
Dr. Greenham.
Yes, we have a scheduled meeting with the approvals team from New South Wales Water on the 6th of June. So I'll be able to give probably a bit more informed information then. But at present, there's still that issue about how often we get where we measure our take and how often we measure that same take. But we have had some interesting discussions with other councils where that have similar operations where they move water between dams and what have you, and they're not measured.
It's really bugging me how we've got there's new rules and regulations where, we've got the money to do this. We're ready to go. We're ready to go with our stormwater harvesting too, which is going to give us water security for 60,000 people. And we're getting, I won't say that we're getting mucked around a little bit. I just really bewildered by this. I've had meetings with the minister about it, and I just don't want us to think this is unviable to do, because this is one of the projects that are going to secure our water. It's very important. We might have full dams at the moment, but sometime into the future we're going to have a drought. So, comment.
Thank you. Staff share your frustrations with the water supply works approval. We do believe there is a way forward, and that a pragmatic resolution will be sought.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Miletto.
Could I just clarify what the major hold-up is or concern? What's holding things up? Stonewalling the project?
I won't take the word, but I think it's different ways of measuring water in and out.
The measure and the take is separate to the water supply works approval itself, but I suppose the main issue was that during the change in government there was several changes within the approvals team under Water New South Wales. So we've now dealing with a second approvals team to what we were dealing with originally. Council will recall that the initial water supply works approval was knocked back some years ago now on the basis that the inlet structure which was a weir structure, was considered by the then Natural Resource Access Regulator, NRA, who were the approval authorities at that time. They considered it a dam and they refused it on that basis. Council was successful in getting the water sharing plan amended. Utilities could build dams on rivers and waterways, and specific mention was made of Orange City Council under that change to the water sharing plan. The other change was that the approvals team is now separated from the regulator. So it's a separate approvals team to the regulator. So the NRA still is there to educate and regulate the water industry and the water sharing plans and the licences under the water sharing plans. But they're not part of the water supply works approvals anymore.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions? Councillor Duffy.
Mine's a matter arising, Mr. Chairman.
Director Greenham, I've probably got two more questions for you from myself before you go. Just back on Aerodrome Road, I'm just wondering if there is any provision or plan for probably the eastern edge of that road heading back towards Spring Hill where the right-hand turn is. I think it runs through an old creek line. Is there a provision there to prevent that washing away so easily?
I'll take that on notice. I'm not aware of it ever washing away. I am aware of it potholing up a bit, but never washing away.
Thank you. That'd be good. Second question is, I've had contact from private users of the airport using smaller craft that have found now it's getting, with the opening of our second refuelling station, it's getting quite difficult to access the runway. Of the understanding, there may have been provisions to put a second hard sand or run-up area adjacent to runway C, so other craft can access the runway after this refuelling station was open. I'm just wondering if that is true, if we have any plans for a second hard sand run-up area.
I'll also take that on notice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. I will close. Matter arising. Thank you. Councillor Duffy.
Chairman, matter arising is across the park over here with the new toilet block over here. Right around about. Go and out of order. A lot of damage done on the.
Speak in your mic because Councillor Kinghorn can't hear.
a lot of the damage done onto the actually building itself, and some of the building parts are actually peeling with paint. I'm just wondering, when are we going to fix it and see what's going on?
I'll take that on notice. I wasn't aware there was an issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments on matters arising?
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Councillor Whitten.
I'd just like to thank, through you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Greenham, for attending to an issue that community raised on Friday in the bad weather, and I'd just like to pass on my thanks of gratitude to Mr. Greenham for attending and dealing with the matter straight away.
Thank you, Councillor Whitten.
We always raise issues, but it's always good to thank the staff as well for the great work that they do.
Beautiful. Thank you. I'll close the meeting of the Infrastructure Policy Committee meeting at 7:04 and pass to Councillor Greenhouse for Sports and Rec. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. I would now like to open the Sport and Recreation Policy Committee meeting on the 4th of June 2024, with the time being 07. Item 1.1, does anyone have any declarations of pecuniary interests, non-significant? Okay, so we'll move on to item 2.1, the draft Orange Place Strategy public exhibition. Can I have someone move that? Thank you, Councillor McDonald.
Second it, Mr.
And second, Councillor Power. Is there any discussion on this item? Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, I'm trying to find the actual page. I do believe there's a typo in here, but I forgot to dog-ear the page.
Was that 2023 instead of 2024?
No, it's item 0.6.4, Management Action Plant. Get rid of the T, but that's a typo. But otherwise, this is a fantastic document. I think it's going to be fantastic if it goes out and gets adopted. Really nice to see a strategy that looks at not just the equipment, but it's actually looking at shade and it's looking at enough seating, because one of the things that I know I've heard a lot this term of council is that there's great play spaces, but there's nowhere for parents or carers to sit. So I think this is a really thorough strategy, and I think it'd be a great thing for the city.
Thank you.
Can I just... I just want to commend the staff on this. You got to look at our census a few years ago. Our biggest growing age group was 0 to 4. So we know there's a lot of families in town. So it's fantastic that we're looking at the play strategy here. This council's done a fantastic job with new playgrounds around the place, and the exciting adventure playground that we're doing up near the Botanic Gardens. What that's going to look like at the end. So this is great.
I couldn't agree more. So I've got a little bit to say on this. Obviously, I'd like to thank the staff for the amazing work they've done putting the draft strategy in place, which will guide us through to 2040. It's imperative that we continue to enhance play facilities for children in our city and ensure that if we aim to deliver best practice, numbers of play spaces need to continue to increase in line with our population growth and development. As our city continues to grow and expand in line with the New South Wales Everyone Can Play guidelines, I believe it's also important that we future-proof these so that once established, they're cost-effective for us as a council to maintain. I like that on page 11.4, it talks about that existing play space is fenced to assist carers. That is something I've discussed many times from feedback with parents in our community. Point 5 is also something Councillor McDonald and I have advocated for, which is that shade be a key consideration. This has resulted in some shade sales, but for future developments it could include natural shade through tree planting. This council term we've upgraded a few parks like Matthews Park, which was part of Orange City Council's $10 million future city upgrade of the CBD. This playground was designed with a railway theme and operates alongside the park's miniature steam train tracks. Lake Canobolas, replacing the playground on the eastern side of the lake with more modern and accessible play equipment. This was part of the $1.3 million upgrade funded by the New South Wales Government, Orange City Council and Cadia Valley Operations, which included 9 projects. which were all aimed at increasing access to the water and recreation areas for all community members. We have had very positive feedback around this project, and I believe we're up for an award tomorrow night. And of course, more recently, the Orange Adventure Playground, which is the largest council-owned playground in Orange. It has provided more than 20 years of enjoyment for children and families in Orange, home to many birthday parties and barbecues. Due to the deteriorating condition of the existing playground, Stage 1 will focus on upgrading the main play areas, central meeting area, and relocated picnic shelters, as well as the installation of a splash park and water play facility. The $2.4 million first stage of the project is funded by the New South Wales Government and Orange City Council. Other points of interest were page 31, Opportunities for Youth, where similar to the motion I brought before Council on the 7th of November last year for a Parkwall Park, it states that parkour equipment throughout the LGA and areas for teenage girls to perch and watch would assist in diversifying the age group provision of play spaces. Page 54 provided a play and community value rating. I was pleased to see that Gosling Creek was rated high by the community because I believe we have a massive opportunity to add additional play for the younger toddlers type play, as the current equipment is more targeted at school-age children. I'm really excited to see what other facilities we can deliver into the future, and I'm keen for us to continue to secure additional funding when grants become available. So thank you. No other comments? Wonderful. All right, I close this. I'll put the motion. Oh, sorry, I should have put that before I put my bit in. I'll put the motion. Unanimous. Thank you, councillors.
Matter arising, Madam Chair.
You would have something, Councillor Duffy.
A number of people have contacted me, and probably not all that many, but some of them are runners, bike riders, but a lot of walkers, not a lot of walkers, just one or two walkers have said that they're looking for a map of water stations around Orange. Have a map on the internet for where people can access them, and if not, how many we have and whereabouts we have. Can we just have a report come back to us?
I'd probably answer now through Chair. There's not many water stations to map.
I know there's one at Gosling Creek, but we're talking about people on push bikes and those people who want to come running and walking around.
There's a few. Okay.
Take it on notice.
Take it on notice. We'll come back here.
Happy for that.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. That's a good point. That's probably something we can discuss in our Sport and Rec meeting tomorrow. Thank you, councillors. That concludes the Sport and Recreation Policy Committee meeting, with the time being 7:15. I'd now like to call on Councillor Mallard to conduct the Environmental Sustainability Policy Committee meeting.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Greenhalgh. I'd like to open the Environmental Sustainability Policy Committee meeting on the 4th of June, with the time being 7:13. Item 1.1, does anyone have any interest to declare? There being none, I'll move on to item 2.1, minutes of the Companion Animals Community Committee meeting, 7th of March 2024. Thanks, moved by Councillor Hamling.
The person that was contacting me wanted to know, would this be extending to breeders as well? And I couldn't find anything in here about it, so I just thought I would ask the question, because they have concerns about...
I'll see if Director Hodges has an answer, or otherwise we'll take it on notice.
Through you, Mr Chair, going through Parliament at the moment, they're up to a second reading of a bill. There's some legislation changes being proposed that relate to boarding establishments, which does require licensing, or would require licensing if it was made a law. I'd say that's probably what the question you've got relates to. So the fact that the government's proposing to bring in a licence to mandate a licence, an annual licence at the moment, or at least the members' bill has that way. If that were to come out, it's clearly saying that if they're licensed, they can continue to breed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Floyd. Any other discussion? Councillor Kinghorn.
Oh, thank you, Mr Chair. Just a couple of comments. Page 5, 3.4.1, just a typo with Lombardy Way. The spelling is Lombardy ends in a Y, not an I. if that can be changed, that would be good. And I'm just curious, one of the 3.2.2 is that Councillor Mallard attend the Orange Show on the 27th of April. How does that work when that's already passed? Why is it even on there if it's already happened?
Minutes of the 7th of March.
Yeah, the meeting was before that, and I did attend. I'll say a little bit about that in a minute. Yeah.
I did see you there, but this is the recommendation for our council meeting tonight, isn't it, to adopt those? Is that right, or am I misreading that?
No, that's right. You're adopting.
Yep.
Yeah, that's correct.
You're adopting the papers from the 7th of March.
Yep. You'll put
So
me
we're
in,
adopting something that's already happened.
you'll put me in an interesting position if you do choose not to adopt that.
Yeah. Well, this is awkward. Yeah, it's just odd. Anyway, that's fine. Okay, thank you.
Might be beyond my capabilities. Yep. I just had a couple of things. One, I needed to request a correction to the minutes. It's on page 7 in our papers. The declaration of interest that I made at that meeting was actually a declaration of a less than significant pecuniary interest, and it was related to item 3.1, the customer request statistics.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then, I was just going to note in relation to the show that, it was the 3rd year of the pet show at the Orange Show, which is organised by Danielle Haas from Diesel and Blue Doggy Daycare. I've been involved in the judging every year. It's a huge amount of fun. Great to see lots of people bringing their animals out to the show, not just dogs. We had several other examples this time, and alpaca came in for a little while as well, and a couple of other chooks and things along the way. So, it's a great event, and, a good way of promoting people looking after their pets, getting them trained and getting them out doing fun tricks and lots of other things as well. There being no other discussion, I'll put the motion. All in favour? And against? Carried. Okay, and thank you, councillors. That concludes environmental
Matter arising, Mr. Chairman.
Matter arising.
Matter arising, yes, Mr. Chairman, is about where we're in Oval and dogs. I went down there today with the assistance of a couple of residents, and there's about 5 or 6 dogs all over the Oval. Now we have a I think the reason why we built one out on the Forbes Road or the Escort Way was so people could go out there and take their dogs out there and let them leash free or whatever the case may be. But 2 residents came to me and said, hey, they do walk around the Oval down there, and they've come back with dog poop on their shoes and things like that from dogs being on the ground. I thought we moved that on. I'm not real sure. Maybe we have a comment from the director.
Director Hodges.
Mr. Chair, Rywena Oval is still an off-leash dog area designated by council whilst there's not cricket activities on. So as long as there's not training or events on, people are allowed to take their dogs in there off lead. It's well fenced, as is the very similar area you're talking about over in Poplar's estate there. In regards to people picking up the feces of their animals, it doesn't matter where they are, whether they're on those sports grounds or down the street, they should be required by law to pick up after their dogs. That all you'll get?
Thanks, Director Hodges.
Nominate Councillor Duffy as a backup.
Okay, and with that concludes the Environmental Sustainability Policy Committee meeting, with the time being 7:19. I'll call on Councillor McDonald to conduct the Services Policy Committee.
Thank you, Councillor Mallard. I'll open the Services Policy Committee meeting on the 4th of June at 7:19. Any declarations of interest from councillors? Nope. Ready? Item 2.1 is the minutes of the Community Safety and Crime Prevention Committee meeting of the 26th of February. Thank you, Councillor Miletto, for moving it and Councillor Power for seconding. Any discussion on this item? Nope. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 2.2 is the minutes of the Orange Health Liaison Committee meeting of the 5th of March. Recommendations on page 23. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Peterson and Councillor Greenhalgh. Any discussion? Councillor Peterson.
Only to very briefly flag that on page 34, soon Orange Hospital will have the second largest solar panel installation on any government facility in all of New South Wales, which I think is pretty impressive.
Fantastic. Thank you, Councillor. Any other discussion? In that case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, raise an arm. Thank you. Unanimous. Item 2.3 is minutes of the NAIDOC Week Committee meeting of the 4th of April. Recommendations on page 45. Can I have thank you, Councillor Power, and a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Evans. Any discussion? All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, raise a hand. Unanimous. Item 2.4. Another lot of minutes from the NAIDOC Week Committee meeting of the 2nd of May. Page 67 has the recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Mallard, for moving. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Greenhalgh. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, raise a hand. Thank you. Unanimous. And last but not least, item 2.5 is minutes of the Ageing and Access Community Committee meeting of the 7th of May. Recommendation is on page 89. Thank you, Councillor Floyd. Can I have a thank you, Councillor Peterson. Any discussion, Councillor Peterson?
Only just a flag to councillors' attention for budget later. Just an action item on page 102, which is a program from the Ageing and Access Committee, assistance for local businesses to purchase temporary ramps, entry to stores. It's from April 2022. Missed the last budget. We'll try again in this budget for your perusal later.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, raise a hand. Unanimous. Thank you. Any matters arising? Nope. Alrighty. Thank you, councillors. That concludes the Services Policy Committee meeting with the time being 7:22, and I will hand back to the Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. The meeting will now resume. We'll move on to notices of motion. 4.1, notices of motion. Gender-based violence is a crisis affecting our community, our region and our country. Councillor McDonald, you'll move that?
Yes, thank you, Mr.
And
Mayor.
seconded by Councillor Greenhalgh. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I didn't realise when I sort of put the thing in it with this massive title, but anyway, that's it works. So essentially, my motion is that Council holds a workshop during this term of Council for stakeholders and community members with the purpose of establishing a draft charter in terms of reference for a gender-based violence community committee. That this work then informs the next council when deciding whether to establish a gender-based violence community committee. The goal of such a committee would be coordinating and driving cultural change to address and eliminate gender-based violence in our community. So I've put in there which parts of the CSP this relates to. In the papers it says 37 women and 5 children have been murdered this year, but that number is now 43 women. So that just goes to show that in the week that there's just not a problem that's going away. So at this rate, 2024's total is going to surpass last year's horrific number, which was 74 women. And these are just the deaths. It doesn't include everyday acts of coercive control within relationships. It doesn't include attempted murders or physical assaults or sexual assaults or indecent assaults, nor the emotional and psychological abuses. And this issue is not going away. Gender-based violence refers to harmful acts directed at an individual or a group of individuals based on their gender. It's rooted in gender inequality, abuse of power, and harmful norms. It encompasses all forms of violence that women experience, predominantly women, including physical, sexual, emotional, cultural, financial, and others that are gender-based, including sexual harassment. So this isn't just something that affects the victims. This is something that affects children, families, and the broader community. And we've seen that in our community and broader in a region with Forbes. So 1 in 4 women has experienced violence, emotional abuse or economic abuse by a cohabiting partner since the age of 15. 1 in 3 women has experienced physical violence since the age of 15. 1 in 5 has experienced sexual violence since the age of 15. These stats increase significantly for women with a disability, for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander women, for lesbian, bisexual and queer women, transgender and gender diverse people, and for women from migrant and refugee backgrounds. Australian women are 3 times more likely than men to experience violence from an intimate partner. So we have been doing some stuff in this space as well in council. Last year we had our 16 days of activism against gender-based violence events, which were a really fantastic way to kickstart our activism in this space. Great opportunity for council, for us councillors and for council staff to create relationships with stakeholders and organisations in the community. We've had fantastic Birds in the Bush events. We've had the No More rallies. There's a lot of need in this and a lot of will in our community to actually do something to drive this change. So I understand that, again, we're coming to the end of the term and I'm not holding the next council to establishing this committee, but I think given that by the time we go into caretaker mode and then the new council is inducted and we put calls out for expressions of interest for committees, we're not going to be meeting with committees until February, which means that we've got 6 months or so of inaction. So at least this is something that we can start the work on. And quite honestly, this isn't going to go away in the next 6 months. So anyway, I commend this to the council. Thank you.
Councillor Miletto.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you to Councillor McDonald for raising this notice of motion. Councillors, this issue is incredibly relevant in the media and also within our community right now, and there's no doubt people want to see action. Some people may argue that this is a complex issue. If it was to go ahead, that the right people would need to be the forefront to ensure it is done properly. Because if it isn't done properly, or well, we detrimental for the community and have quite the opposite effect. My question to the CEO is, does Orange City Council have the resources required and expertise to establish a draft charter to undertake the terms of reference? I would also be interested to know, would the state government currently provide any grant funding opportunities to assist with such a project?
Through you, Chair, yes, we would be able to resource the motion I'm looking at the moment, noting it's a workshop now with a future to be established. I can't answer for the state answer, but we're always looking for funding from the state. And it's a very hot topic.
Thank you, Mr CEO. I'm more than happy to support the notice of motion. Thank you.
Councillor Whitten.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I'll be fully supporting this motion. We can't leave state and federal government. We've got to play our role as a third tier of government, and especially our local community, where we have a sphere of being able to drive change in the community. And I commend Councillor McDonald for raising this. And it's not unlike any other committee. The process, when we need to drive change in the community from whatever point of view, we put committees together, and it's what council does. And this is very important to everybody in the community, and we need to show leadership and take ownership and play our part, because we can't always put everything back at the feet of state and federal government, because this is a local issue as well as a national issue. So I'll be fully supporting this, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Greenhalgh.
Yeah, I support all those things said already. I sincerely thank Councillor McDonald for bringing this motion before council, because this is a very real problem. No matter what the outcome we reach after the election later this year, this ensures the current council take gender-based violence seriously and continue to advocate for further change in our community. I do have a few questions and thoughts around the workshop where I feel maybe we should also look at including our state member, Mr Donato, and our federal member, Andrew Gee, along with all other relevant agencies. As I completely agree with Councillor Miletto, I believe it's critical that we get this right to maximise the impact in relation to this matter. Part of this journey will be ensuring they support what we advocate for in relation to funding opportunities that can support us driving change to eliminate this gender-based violence. This will then enable us to have open and honest communication about this important crisis and establish whether it needs to be a council-led community committee or a state-led committee like the Push for Palliative. I think we need to think about what is the end goal or purpose. Is it fundraising? Is it more agencies to support victims, etc.? At the end of the day, it's imperative that we get the right people at the table, and this issue is bigger than local government. But as Councillor Whitten said, we need to play our part to advocate and educate for change to protect our community and every other community along the way. What we can do as individuals and parents is educate our children that this sort of violence is not acceptable in society and provide them with the tools as such to remove themselves or someone they know from the situation by seeking help and providing a safe and inclusive environment. It also starts school, and our children need to be made aware of this. We've had great support in our community with the 16 days of activism, the people that turned out in the park, and that just goes to show that our community understand that this is a problem in our community, and I think anything we can do to try and make that better, protect people, got to be a good thing. So I 100% support.
Councillor Mallard.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, thanks, Councillor McDonald, for bringing the motion, and I'm very happy to support it. This is the kind of move that I hoped would come from the work we've started doing in this term of council. I think, and Councillor McDonald, I know, has done the same training that I've talked about before and recommended to everybody from Domestic Violence New South Wales about the role that local government can play. And the key thing is that we are the ones who are equipped for this. We have the role in our local community as leaders with the connection to the local organisations to be able to bring stakeholders together, to be able to talk about what needs to be done on the ground locally across the full spectrum of work that's needed to really tackle this, which is everything from crisis support, which we have fantastic services in town, but all the way back to targeted early intervention, primary prevention as well. I think this is going to be really important. I think it's important that we do need to be doing the work now. We know when a new council forms that the charters of the community committees are already sitting there. We need to have this one sitting there ready for the next council to look at and choose to take up. Which I hope they will, and I think in doing the work in the next while, we will, continue to build a set of connections, as I talked about when we had the report come from last year's 16 days of activism, that the connections that we built in that process as we worked on it, and even what continued to build after that, we're just continuing to build the social infrastructure that we need to be able to take this on. And I thank everyone who's been involved in that process in all of the different parts of the movement that we're really hopefully starting to bring together through this motion. Thanks.
Councillor Powell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I thank you, Councillor McDonald, for actually bringing this forward, and I appreciate everybody else's comment on this significant issue that is affecting the households that we, in this city that we live in. As a white ribbon ambassador for many years, it portrays the educational aspects of it, and there was Councillor Greenhalgh mentioned that within schools there is a wonderful program that runs in a school which is called Love Bite, and it's around that education, because I've always been an advocate of early intervention is prevention, and if we can get in early enough, we can change the lifestyles, we can change the attitude, we can change the aptitude of young people for the future. When we look at the data in relation to just Orange itself, and I remember when we brought this up, and I said this cannot be acceptable, that we as civil leaders have got to lead this aspect of it. And we, the 12 that have been elected by the community, for the community, on behalf of the community, we need to lead this. So I thank you again, Councillor Donnell, for actually bringing this up. And I hope and pray that the future with the movements, we've got the 16 days of gender violence, great experience, awesome experience. It's about, again, I think this motion is about accumulating all of the services that are in this community and bringing them together in relation to identifying, supporting and advocating for those, and also supporting those who are perpetrators too, in aspects of that. So thank you very much, and I yield back.
Any other speakers? Yeah, I'll support this 100%. I think the community know, as a council, we support the scourge that's out there with domestic violence at the moment. We lead the state in some of the stats that are out there, and that's one thing we do not want to lead the state in, is those statistics. I totally agree with Councillor Greenhalgh. We've got to get the right people here. We can't just throw this committee together and just have a talk fest. You know, we've got to figure out what our mission is, what our statement is, what the committee's trying to do. We need our federal member there. We need our state member there. If it's like a palliative care committee where our state member is the chair and he can go and talk to the government directly, we've got to work that out. It just can't be another committee sometimes that meet and just throw around ideas. We've got to figure out what the end goal is. What are we trying to do here at the end? Is it about, the community already know that we support them? Is it about fundraising for the Orchard, that fantastic facility out there? Is it about bringing more services to the town, or have we got duplicates of services happening at the moment? So that's what I'd like to see this committee do. Get right down to the nitty gritty and find out what we can do and how we can help. But I commend you on this motion. Would you like to close the debate, or you?
No, I'm just thank you for everyone for your support, and it's to know that everyone is on the same page that I thought we were. So thank you.
Councillors, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Unanimous. I'll move on to 4.2, which is notice of motion, sports precinct athletics track. You're going to move that, Councillor Peterson?
Yes, please.
Have a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Floyd. Councillor Peterson.
Thank you. So the motion is that Council ask and write to the State Government requesting if construction of the athletics track alone, without attached grandstand, could occur simultaneously with construction of the main sports stadium. I think the motion and the contribution tonight from Mr. O'Mara should be demonstrate the necessity of the athletics track. I really want to stress that requesting an athletics track being built simultaneously should not slow down the construction of the rugby stadium. I feel they should at least consider if we can construct them simultaneously by different specialised teams in different areas of the precinct. We ultimately do have responsibility for this project, and that responsibility extends to attempt to find the way for a best outcome. I appreciate state government could knock us back, but why would we not go into bat for our local clubs and ask if it could be done?
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Peterson, for this motion. I think it's definitely one I'm happy to support. It absolutely makes sense that we push to have the athletics track as well, just to make sure that we're not shortchanging our local athletics and regional athletics community. So I'm happy to support this, absolutely.
Councillor Miletto.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I would just like to ask Councillor Peterson whether he would consider a minor amendment to his motion. I could entertain you.
Always happy to consider what you've got to contribute, for sure.
I'd like to make an amendment that it reads that council first write to the local member seeking his support in the first instance, then write to the state government requesting construction of the athletics track alone without attached grandstand could occur simultaneously with the construction of the main sports stadium. So the only change that I'd be requesting, or the amendment would be, that council first write to the local member seeking his support in the first instance. I think we need to pay the local member the due respect and give them the opportunity to support what we're trying to do here at Orange City Council.
Sure, happy for that to be part of the motion.
Seconder, happy with that? Yep. Any other speakers? Councillor Duffy. No, you got your hand up. You won something.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to support the resolution, but I am fully aware that the minister, the premier, came up here and said, "Hey, the first lot of money you got, $25 million, was for a football stadium," and he's made the decision to say, "Hey, you build that first, then you build the other thing, the athletic track." I was all for the athletic track first, but the gentleman who provided all the money, or the organised government that's provided all the money, has said, no, you'll do the football stadium first. Now, I'm not going to go against that in any shape or form, but I will support the resolution to get some support to we may be able to change their mind, but I don't like our chances.
So just before, we're not talking, we're just talking about building the track.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep, as long as you got that right. Councillor Whitten. No, Councillor Greenhalgh.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson, for
sure
bringing the motion forward. I'd just like to reiterate as well the things that Councillor Duffy has said about the initial allocation of funds and the visit from the Premier. But I have always been a supporter of the athletics track. I have no issue in, writing a letter and asking the question. Just don't want to slow anything down. I think we just need to get on and build this and get something happening. That's what everyone wants. And the sooner we get on and do that, the sooner everyone's going to have all the facilities that we need. I'm in full support of athletics. We need it. I've always said that from the start. We need our kids to be training on a field that is like in comparison to those kids in Sydney, where that is their main sport. For the majority of our kids out here, it is their secondary sport. For that reason that was brought forward, they don't have the opportunity to train on that track year round. So the sooner we can get those facilities and get on with it, the better it's going to be for everyone in our community.
Any other councillors? I'm happy to write to the government and ask them to do that, but we've just got to remember that they're the ones that are doing this project. So whatever response we get, that's what we've got to go with. I too, it was the first money came by the former Premier Gladys Berejiklian with $25 million to build a sports stadium. That was always a lot of money coming, and then it's turned into the sporting precinct, which I'm very happy about, because having that athletics track out there would just enhance the facilities that we've got out there at the current Jack Brabham Oval and the new sporting precinct. So I'm happy to put a letter in and keep our local member in as well. I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Can I just confirm?
Oh, sorry.
Can I just confirm that the amendment then becomes a motion?
Oh, it's not an amendment. He put it in your motion. He put it in his original motion.
And I might just speak because you're going to give me a go, Mr. Mayor, for your vote. But yeah, it was our local member, Phil Donato, who actually got the money, right? Because the government weren't going to give it to us, so he actually fought to get that money. So our local member should be involved. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So as I put the motion, all in favour? Unanimous. Item 4.3. AED, I'll move that. I have a seconder. Thanks, Councillor Duffy. I don't have to say too much about it. I think Mr. Greg Page explained it all. Any other speakers? Councillor Miletto.
I just had a question with regards to this proposal. My question really to the CEO is how will Council maintain security on such devices, given that the majority of our parks don't have CCTV installed? Looking at the motion, the appetite is to have it around parks, things like that. Unfortunately, there will be situations where they may be taken, and I'm just wondering what Council can do to maintain the security of such devices, given that the majority will be in our parks that don't have CCTV installed.
I'll ask Mr. Maunder to answer this question as best he can.
Apologies for talking to you back, Councillor. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Each of the units will contain a tracking device that's Wi-Fi and provides an alert whenever a device is removed from the container with which it's stored. Part of that is around also notifying emergency services. We do have a very strong track record in Orange of DFIBs remaining on site across our public facilities. We've had one at several locations that have remained without any issue. So Mr. Page did advise us of a number of units that had been removed across Sydney and had been recovered post that removal. I think in total they've lost 5 units since this program was implemented.
Thank you.
Councillor Whitten.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for this motion. It's been something I've been passionate about for a few years in council, to get a map of facilities that are around town. But if we're going to be putting these out ourselves, that's just grand. And I think, to the point of Councillor Miletto, if we were to always not make decisions based on the fact that we do have some people in the community who damage council facilities, then we wouldn't do anything. So it's beneficial. We only have to save one life, and hopefully we'll save more, and they'll be around to take care of our community. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. I fully support it 110%.
Councillor Greenhalgh.
Yeah, I'm in full support of this motion as well. The Mayor and I recently were at a public function where one wasn't available, so we've had a bit of discussion about this. My question is probably exactly the same as Councillor Miletto's. Like, I know we have one in our clubhouse at Brendan Sturgeon that we purchased. It's locked up 90% of the time. So it's about getting those out and getting them accessible to other people in the community. So, yeah, I'd be very interested for our local sporting clubs to have provision to get those trackers or something like that attached to them somehow, so that, we can benefit everyone in our community. But yeah, 100% in support of this.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the motion. I got a couple of questions first, and then I'll speak to the motion. Firstly, just given that the draft budget's, there's probably a question through you to the CEO. Draft budget's currently on exhibition. How does it work from a process point of view? If we support this and it gets adopted, I'm assuming it doesn't then need to go back out on exhibition because it's. Yeah, I'm just after sort of process kind of question around that.
Through Mr. Chair, if I read the wording of this motion is asking for $35,000 to actually be added to it.
Yep.
So when we finish the submission period, the exhibition period, we will gather all those for your consideration at the next meeting. However, this one will go into the base budget.
Okay.
If you vote for it.
Okay, thank you. My next question is regarding sort of like maintenance, and I'm happy for this to be taken on notice and sort of from Heart of the Nation. But in terms, as we all know here, because we've recently had to deal with this, the pads don't last forever. So what happens in terms of replacing the pads? Is that going to be a budget, like an ongoing line item into the future? I mean, I know it's not much, but just trying to understand sort of processes again.
Through you, Mr. Chair, you're correct, Councillor. They do require replacement, as you'd be aware, and it is a minor maintenance item that we would be responsible for.
Okay.
As we are for.
And would that also need to be included in the budget, or would that sort of just be taken under sort of general?
We just pick it up. So what we do now is we hold. Rather than having at the store, we hold replacement pads because they do have a life, as you'd also know, and we just replace them as they're used. So that's our mechanism. Hopefully, we don't have to replace them in one sense, but also in the opposite, that the AEDs are useful to the community. So that's how we do it, and that's what we've done.
Yep.
To date.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, look, more than happy to support this. But as Councillor Whitten said, I mean, what price do we put on a life? 5,000 sounds like a lot of money to some people, but how much is a life worth? So if it saves one life, then it's well and truly paid for all of them. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for bringing the motion.
Councillor Floyd.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm in full support of this motion, and I thank you for putting it up tonight. As I learnt at that recent training day hosted by Mr. Page there, that we do only have the one, what's called a gold standard AED in Orange, which is outside the state member's office there. Further installation of public access AEDs around Orange may not always save a life, but they will give us the tools that we require to save someone's life and give it our best shot. So, as I've previously said in this chamber as well, what price can you put on saving a life?
Councillor Peterson.
Yeah, look, support the motion. I can think of two successful cardiac arrest stations I was involved with, and both of them had the leads on the chest within about 30 seconds. There's been many others, and then will stick with me that you'll normally spend a long time, 20, 30 minutes with the patient, just in case, but it's already done by then. So that time's very important. The thing that I like about this motion in particular, Mr. Mayor, is the fixed location of these sites, so people will get used to them, and I think that's much better than floating ones or ones that a community group might have, temporary ones that may or may not be there. And there's also some responsibility to who's going to look after them. So thank you.
There being no other speakers, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Unanimous. Notice of motion 4.4, consideration of hockey centre budget allocation, and move that way, Councillor Greenhalgh.
I'll second it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitten. Do you need to speak for this, Councillor Greenhalgh?
Absolutely. First of all, I'd just like to thank both Darren and Janine for coming tonight to speak on behalf of the Hockey Association and give us some context in relation to this motion. I'm not going to go through the importance of this community asset as we've all read the information that's been provided. What I would like to do, though, is congratulate them on the $600,000 that they have raised over the past decade. That is a mammoth effort. And also the $300K that they've secured through the New South Wales Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Grants Program towards the cost of the project, which will enhance our community facility and enable us to host regional and state tournaments that will drive economic growth for our city. Having plenty of first-hand executive and volunteering in the rugby league community, I know how hard they have worked to raise this money. A lot of pies and sausage rolls sold and a mammoth amount of volunteering hours. I think the very least we can do is include this in our budget so that they can get on with the project, considering they've also committed to the remaining shortfall of $300K. A $200K investment from Orange City Council in a $1.45 million project is a no-brainer to me. And it's no different to any other investment we've made to assist Waratahs in the past, or the planetarium or conservatorium.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Greenhalgh, for this. I'm more than happy to support the motion. And I feel really old in that I actually played on that brand new surface when I was in primary school. So didn't realise it was that long ago, but now I feel very old for it. But more than happy to support this. I think it's well and truly in need of a literal facelift, and congratulate the club for that's amazing fundraising, as Councillor Greenhalgh said. So happy to support.
Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to support it 100%. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and congratulations on your funding effort yourselves. $600,000, really commendable. I played one game of hockey. I got sent off at about half time for hitting a player with the stick because I was left-handed, missed. But I want to go back to the days when they used to play hockey out of Bloomfield. And that was very rough, and we were forced to go out there and watch our wives and girlfriends. And what facility you have today, and this is going to make it better, to even have carnivals here that comes here, the same as what we do with rugby union and athletics and all these type of things. It'll be a huge boost to our city. And please don't lose the sight that you may need more assistance from council.
Miletto.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I totally support the notice of motion. My only concern is whether we're going to promise something we're unable to deliver, not knowing what the budget allocation is going to be. I guess my question is, I'm not sure whether the relevant director would be in a position to answer prior to the budget briefing, which I understand this Friday, but historically, are we able to estimate approximately what percentage of the budget allocation would $200,000 represent?
Through Mr. Chair, it's a tricky one because this would be a $200,000 capital consideration. Can I just point out this one has been worded so that council include in budget considerations an allocation of $200,000 as opposed to the defibrillators. So when we package all submissions up for the draft budget, this will be bundled up there as for consideration. That's my understanding of the spirit of this motion.
So
the final fate of it, will be determined at the next meeting when all of the budget comes. As to a percentage, $200,000, at top of my head, I'm sorry I can't do that right now. I'll have that ready for you on Friday.
Thank you.
Councillor Whitten.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, totally support it. Again, it's one of those things. This has always been a fantastic asset to our community. And if I read, and thank you, Mr. Maunder, and to Ben, who sent an email this afternoon about, I think I raised a question on notice last council meeting about the type of revenues that our sport bring to the community that from visiting coming to our community. And there's a figure here of about $12 million that come into the community from all types of different events that come to our community. And they make a point in the email to say that that's only the estimated figure that that council are involved with, not all of the other events we're involved in. So now again, $200,000, it's a lot of money, especially when budgets are tight. You know, it'll pay for it's paid for itself for many, many years already. And for us to give back to the Hockey Association to help keep those fields in pristine condition and safe for the players who use them, again, it will just bring many, many people to our community and allow our people who live here to use it.
Any other speakers? I'll just say I support it 100%. I think, as we said, it's a council-owned asset. And the work that they've done up there, you've only got to go up there on Saturdays and Sundays and see how many people use that facility. So I'll be supporting this in the budget submissions when they come back to us. Any other speakers? No, I'll put the motion all in favour. Against? Unanimous. 4.5, notice of motion, statue of Urini in Orange. Councillor Duffy, you moving that way?
Thank you, Mr. Jim.
I'll second it, Mr.
Thank you, Councillor Whitten.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has been a long-term issue that I've had wishing to support Urini, simply because he's a significant person in the Central West and right throughout, all the way up through to Queensland. We heard Mr. McLaughlin here last week speak very highly of him, but the speech very highly of him is Major Mitchell, who gave the first dual, or organised the first dual grave in New South Wales. And the beauty of it being a statue in Orange is it's going to be here where people can see it. Not like I'm not taking away from the fish fossils, but they're at Canowindra and they're in the back blocks there, and not many people see them, and they are fantastic. But if and the other beauty of this is that, and I'd like to welcome Annette and Mick here today to hear what we have to say and see what we come up with, is that the Aboriginal Land Council are in control of the cultural issues of our Indigenous family that live among us. And it'd be absolutely fantastic to hand that over to them, to them to make the decision of probably where it should be, what it should cost, and what type it should be. So I think that's why I asked your support to support this resolution.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move an amendment, which is that the motion instead read, the council refer consideration of recognition of Urini to the Cultural Heritage Community Committee and its work on recognition of significant Aboriginal people and places in Orange for consultation with the elders. If I can get a seconder, I'll speak to that.
Councillor Power, seconder. Councillor Mallard.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, and just in terms of the process for this, Councillor Duffy may not be aware that there is already a process going through Council's Cultural Heritage Community Committee where there is a working party that is looking at identifying opportunities for the recognition of significant Aboriginal people and places in Orange. The Elders group that has been meeting has been discussing names and discussing things relating to that. That process is the ideal place for this to come. I'm concerned about passing a motion that says we're going to build a statue. We don't know where the money is going to come from. It may well be that it ends up eventuating into nothing. And I know we have had another motion that was passed in the previous term of council for another statue that has pretty much gone through a lengthy process but hasn't actually moved forward at all. So I am proposing that we instead put it into a process that's already going on to look at identifying what can we do to recognise significant Aboriginal people and places. I think Urinnai deserves consideration in that process, and I think working through that process and the consultation that'll be going on with the elders is critical to taking this forward. Thanks.
Councillor Miletto.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a point of clarification before I speak to the issue. Can I confirm whether or not Cultural Heritage Group also include representatives from the Orange Land Council, Orange Aboriginal Land Council?
Someone want to, Mr. Maunder?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. I have reliable information that 2 representatives are on that committee.
Sorry, that they're not on there?
There's
They are on there, sir.
A point of clarification.
Just wait a second. Councillor Miletto's first.
I'm not certain that is the case, but you are confirming that there are 2 representatives here. Are we able to ask from the floor?
No.
No? Well, if that's the case, I'd ask that this matter be deferred until we can confirm that, because that will influence my decision on which way I'm going to vote here tonight.
You have to foreshadow an amendment.
Yeah,
Just foreshadowing an amendment.
I'll foreshadow an amendment because
Have we got a seconder for that?
Hey, wait till he gets...
I'll wait till we get back to you. Councillor Whitten.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be speaking for the motion as the seconder. Look, the motion states that council staff meet with the local Aboriginal Land Council, and it's about talking about what it is that they would see as a fit and proper recognition to Urinnai and a location. I don't want to play politics with this issue. I think the motion is there. It states what it's about. I think Councillor Duffy's spirit of the motion is to engage the local Aboriginal Land Council. And I should imagine that they have direct links to the cultural elders in this community. Rather than taking it back through one of council's committees, who are ultimately going to have to engage with the local land council, I would imagine, where because the committee will bring back a recommendation to this council, to this chamber. The recommendation is already here, or the motion is already at this table. It's about us now making a decision whether we would support council staff speaking with the local Aboriginal Land Council to identify what would be a fitting, and in this case, Councillor Duffy's saying a statue, recognition for Urinnai in Orange. So that's why I'll be supporting the motion and not supporting the amendment, because, as I say, I'm not going to play politics with this issue. It's pretty well cut and dried.
Councillor Powell.
Thank you, Mr. May. First of all, Mr. May, the Cultural Heritage Committee, which whom I actually am the chair, has 2 delegates from Orange Aboriginal Land Council from their Heritage Committee. Number 1, the chair of that committee sits on my committee, the Cultural Heritage Committee, and that is Greg Ingram. and Uncle Neil Ingram also sits on that committee. And reflecting on Councillor Mallard's comment in relation to it going back there, it's just around the aspect of the process. Because after this motion had been put up, I had spoken to the elders, and they echoed the voice that had the councillors approached them in relation to this. And that is one of the things, as the first Indigenous person elected on council, that we walk with the Wiradjuri community and with the elders in relation to any aspects of motion put up. They have not been consulted. That's no disrespect to the local Aboriginal Land Council, but the knowledge holders are the Wiradjuri elders of this community. And it's vitally important that we walk down this journey. The Cultural Heritage Committee has been walking down this journey for the last 2.5 years or so. And so it's vitally important that we continuously there, but that is what Councillor Mallard already mentioned, that we take it back to there, because it's not an easy fix. There's consultation, because the motion speaks that we that Councillor Duffy put up there, that they establish a statue. I have not yet seen some form of drawing in relation to you and I. None. I do and have saw, in which they have established a statue for the Windradine, another amazing warrior, Wiradjuri warrior and leader, and that's established over in Bathurst. That's why it's vitally important that we slow the process down, go back to the community, and through the Culture Heritage. That's why I want to support this Culture Heritage Committee. Work with the 2 members that are on this committee, sir, that we can move through with the elders there, and then finally get this done, but in hand with the local Aboriginal Land Council, sir. Thank you.
Councillor Miletto, you're speaking.
I'm speaking for the motion.
Yep.
More than happy to support the motion in its current format. I'm really interested to hear the Orange Aboriginal Land Council have to say what their thoughts are. And the council makes a really good point that there are 2 representatives on the Cultural Heritage Committee. But what I want to hear is from the entire Indigenous community through the Land Council, not just 2 representatives. I want to hear everybody's thoughts. And my understanding is that the Orange Aboriginal Land Council represent a large volume of people. And these 2 representatives who are on the Cultural Heritage Committee have the opportunity, I would imagine, to lend their thoughts, the overall group contained within the Orange Aboriginal Land Council. My only question is, given that Mr. Urinnai is currently buried at Molong, any benefit in Orange City Council speaking to Cabonne Council as well about the issue, as well as the Land Council, and involve them as well? And that would be a matter for the Orange Aboriginal Land Council, should this motion be passed here tonight. Thank you.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'm going to speak against the motion and for the amendment. It's a bit strange to me that we already have, as councillors Power and Mallard have mentioned, there's already a process in place, it's underway, and to duplicate that process, I get what Councillor Miletto is saying, but as having 2 representatives from the Lands Council on that committee, I would assume that they are liaising with the rest of the Lands Council members. So I don't understand what's the point in duplicating this. My other thing with this is, Councillor Whitten said, we're not going to make it political, but I think that's exactly what this is, because
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor McDonald, you've got no. How do you know it's political?
My opinion.
In your opinion, so
AMO.
mention Councillor Whitten.
That's why I'm addressing a comment that he made,
Right.
not personally attacking him.
Okay.
Just the last council meeting, we had an opportunity to listen to the community and name the southern feeder road Urinnai Way, which is what the community majority wanted. That would have been a fantastic start to recognising Urinnai, but for some reason wasn't acceptable then, but all of a sudden now we want to put a statue and it's acceptable now. So I'm calling hypocrisy on it, but I think it should definitely go through the Heritage Committee.
Councillor Peterson.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm happy for investigation of costings and locations for statue. It might help us make informed decisions later on. But consultation is key, and in my heart of hearts, I think a statue is quite easily walked past. So we need to hear from people about if that's what they want. For instance, how many of us around the table could name who the statue in front of the Orange Ex-Services Club represents? It was built recently.
Hamilton.
Well done. I'm hopeful it could be all 12. However, we do have some major pieces of infrastructure coming up in construction. We've got a couple of stadiums, we've got multiple sporting tracks and fields, we've got a redone adventure playground, we've got a conservatorium and a planetarium, and I would have thought those pieces of infrastructure would be good opportunities to be named in honour of extremely prominent local historical identities. That would include Urinnai. So I'd like that to be considered by whichever route this council decides to go in seeking that consultation.
Any other speakers? Yeah, well, hang on. Oh, you want to speak against it?
Yeah, I want to speak to you.
Yep.
I remember simply because
Yeah, no. Yeah.
microphone. Simply because the Aboriginal Land Council are in charge of cultural issues. I think that's under the Act. Now, with that in mind, they do have a cultural committee. Now, I've spoken with Jamie Newman, I've also spoken with Annette, and they will most likely refer that, or I'm sure that they will refer it to that cultural committee. So I think we've just been a little bit pedantic about what's been going on here.
Councillor Kinghorn.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Listening to what everybody's been saying, the only concern I have with the original motion is the fact that it specifies a statue, and from what Councillor Power was saying, then that may not be something that's considered acceptable. So I just wonder whether I realise that there's another
Amendment.
amendment going, but I just wonder if it did come to this, then and I get the gist of what's being looking for here, but whether the wording of the original motion needs to be changed for a statue or other tribute or something, just to cover what Councillor Power has raised. I don't really mind which way it goes, whether it's done through the Land Council or the Cultural Heritage Committee, but just the concern that we just assume that a statue is what would be wanted. It may be something else, and if we're so specific in the motion about it being a statue, then that can be a bit potentially a bit of a challenge. Thank you.
Councillor Evans.
That's it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll speak in favour of the amendment and against the motion. Look, it really is how many different ways do you want to skin this cat? We're going around in circles a bit here. It's driving me up the wall. Why would we pass a motion to do something we're presumably already doing? I assume this conversation is already happening, and as we've already discussed, we don't know that we want it to necessarily be a statue. What we agree on is we want this person to be recognised, but to say this is the method. So, as I say, why would we pass a motion to do what we're already doing? Let's go back to the Cultural Heritage Commission or committee where this is already happening and get the process, ticking along a bit quicker. Thank you.
Councillor Miletto.
Just wondering, I'd like to ask the mover of the motion whether he would consider a slight amendment to the motion and remove the word statute, is it? Statute to appropriate recognition. That would be dependent on what the Orange Aboriginal Land Council would determine that.
Yeah, he's happy with that. Yep.
Yeah.
Councillor Whitten.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Speaking against the amendment, it's all well and good to tell us that a committee are doing something, but I, as a councillor who are not on that committee,
You are on that committee.
Yeah, but I'm not aware of what that committee's doing because it hasn't come to this chamber. This motion has come to this chamber. And Councillor Mallard, the decisions are made here, not by committees. They refer things to the chamber. We as councillors ultimately move the motions and we can do so here tonight. So with all due respect, I don't speak over you, so please have a bit of manners and don't speak over me. Not that I know you don't have any manners, because I know you don't have any manners.
Point of order.
So,
Councillors, let's behave.
Good manners, generally.
Let's go, Councillor Whitten.
So, yeah, we have a motion in front of us. I'm not aware of what the committee's planning, but we have a motion from a councillor in this chamber to deal with. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'll be speaking for the motion. I think last council meeting during the debate, I went with the Southern Distributor Road, and I did mention that I would like to see some sort of recognition for you and I think this is fantastic, and I'll be supporting this 100%. So I'll put the amendment first. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4. Against? Amendment's lost. I'll put the motion. All in favour? No, Councillor McDonald's not voting for it. Oh, did you have your hand up, didn't you, Councillor Mallard?
Yeah.
So it's 11-1. Yeah.
And
Still a no, isn't it? Okay. Is there anyone against it? Number 4.6, notice of motion, Easter public holiday trade exemption. Councillor
Mover is leaving.
He had an interest to declare. So I'll be moving on his
Oh,
behalf.
you're moving it on your seconder. Councillor Power. Speakers?
Just happy to put it as written, that staff investigate applying for and the implications of exemptions to the public holiday trade restrictions in place during Easter long weekend for the Orange LGA. I think it's just important that businesses have the option, if they're able to open. I know not all businesses are able to in terms of rates and hourly rates and things, but I think it's definitely something that we should be investigating for the economic benefit of our community.
Councillor Miletto.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm happy to support the motion. I understand where the councillor is coming from with the notice of motion. However, I would have liked to have seen some correspondence from the business chamber or their members supporting the idea. Not seeing that here. Also, perhaps an approach could be made to the local member requesting further support may also be beneficial. Thank you.
Councillor Greenhalgh.
Yeah, I'm happy to support the motion. Probably my questions are like, financially, what does it cost us to do this? Because from what I can understand, you can apply for this individually, but what we're being asked to do is to apply for it on behalf of all the businesses in our community, and then they get to choose whether they open or they don't open. But I can see where the motion's coming from. Like, obviously, if people come out for the Easter long weekend, they need to be able to eat and socialise somewhere. So I can understand why we want to apply for that exemption. So, yeah, just a few questions around that. I don't know if one of the directors can answer what that would look to cost us or whatever. But, yeah, happy to support the inquiry.
Are you after an answer to those?
What it costs us, like what's the financial implications, what's the process?
Might take
maybe take it on notice.
We'll take it on notice and come back with that information when we come back with the report.
Councillor Power. Did you have your hand up, Councillor Power?
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Mayor, I definitely want to support this. I think it gives an opportunity for those tradings or those retail services to at least have an opportunity to actually, if they
can actually open up on time where they can actually do bring in some financial support for their business, but also be available for those who are travelling here. So, yeah, I support this investigation. I think this is all this is really at the end of the day. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Whitten.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Speaking as an old chamber president, this is state legislation. The businesses can apply through the fair trading, as it says here, to do this. It's not really a local government, but council. Local government has no jurisdiction over this whatsoever. Am I correct, Mr. Hodges? Where are you? You gone? It's a state legislative thing. All we would be doing is getting council staff to write on behalf of all the businesses in Orange, but then they would still have to fill out all the relevant forms to get approval. So, yeah, it's not really governed by us. We don't give the permission or approval.
Councillor Duffy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be supporting the resolution. I think it's good for us to know exactly what has to be changed if we are going to change it, or make recommendations to the state government to make a change, or the federal government, whatever laws. That's what I'll be looking for with the act that comes towards us.
Councillor Mallard.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, look, given that this is about investigating and bringing information back, I'm happy to support it. And I think Councillor Greenhalgh asked some good questions. I assume that'll come back when we do get the report from the investigation. It looks to me clearly some local government areas got exemptions for the area, so clearly it does look like there's some legislative mechanism for it to be relevant to local government, so if we can find out about that. And obviously I'll be very interested in making sure we understand what are the implications for employees of businesses, and making sure they've got entitlements to either their public holidays or their penalty rates if they do work on them. Thanks.
Any other speakers? There being no other speakers, I'll put the motion in favour. Against? Carried. Could we have Councillor Evans back into the chamber, please? I'll do it. 63. I'll move on to general reports. 5.1 Function Centre.
The recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Whitten, seconded by Councillor Greenhalgh. Any speakers? Councillor McDonald.
Mr. Mayor, just a question through you, a process question again to the CEO. Is this, assuming the recommendation gets adopted, is this going to follow the same process as the hockey 200,000? So it goes in as a submission, or it just automatically gets like the DFIBs?
Mr. Chair, it's exactly the same as the hockey one, to be considered next.
Thank you.
Any other speakers? Councillor Greenhalgh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to thank the council staff for the work that they've done compiling this report as a direct result of the motion brought before council on the 3rd of May 2022. In June of 2023, as a council, we resolved to consider allocation of funding for the works included in the report in future budgets. I'm pleased that this time has now finally arrived. I'm in full support of the recommendation for an allocation of $250,000 for capital works. As I've stated on many occasions publicly, it's not responsible for us as a council to just let this community-owned facility built by our community keep deteriorating. If we can start with the structural works, it will then enable us to move on to the refit elements that our community users require, like bringing the kitchens up to an acceptable standard in line with today's standards, and the addition of some audio equipment, bar upgrades, air conditioning upgrades, along with some soft refurbishments to the common areas that are looking a little tired. We all know from the community feedback we received that this building is important to our community. What I was pleased to see on a visit last week with our director is how passionate our council staff are about the facility, along with John. What I want to see moving forward is a facility that we can once again be proud of. a facility that is fit for purpose to attract those distinguished performers and ensure they feel comfortable backstage. A facility our user groups are not embarrassed about inviting performers backstage or well-renowned chefs to cook in inadequate kitchens. Simply a facility that will live up to their standards and expectations. A facility that our community can continue to make memories in, like the many stories that some of these councillors have already shared with us. Again, I want to stress how important it is that we have adequate master plans in place. Should grant funding become available, we're ground ready and in a position to put our best foot forward to secure that funding. I believe an important next step is once again to engage with the key users of the areas, like the kitchen and bar, to ensure we understand what layouts, etc., will work for them moving forward.
Any other speakers? There being no other speakers, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Against? Carried. We'll move on to 5.2 New Year's Eve event options. Moved by Councillor Power, seconded by Councillor Peterson. Any speakers? Councillor Power.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a fantastic opportunity. I mean, with the discussion from previous meetings, sir, about the fire hazard and everything else. And when I first read this motion that would be out the lake, I thought this is fantastic because it would actually allow an opportunity to reduce that hazard for fire hazard, as what Waratah and I think the previous council actually voted on. So happy to support this, both 1 and 2, that sponsorship be sought, and hopefully that in the end of this year we may have an opportunity to enjoy a New Year's fire. Councillor Floyd would be happy with that too.
Councillor
You yield back, sir.
Councillor Peterson.
Yeah, no, I speak strongly in support of the motion. I'm particularly pleased to see our investment in the lake infrastructure put to use and the fire risk mitigated. Just wanted to make 2 additional relevant points in the proposal. I think between the Scout Camp, the mountain bike park, and the numerous parking places on the lake itself, there's actually more parking out there for this sort of event than one might realise. And second, just to point out that in future years, there may well be a cycleway linking Lake Canobolas with a variety of vineyards, and that could make for a good evening, but also open up further parking, which I think is the limitation of this venue on paper.
Councillor Mallard.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move an amendment, which is to amend point 1 at the end, and rather than say and include fireworks, and include a laser show. If I can get a seconder, I'll speak to that.
I'm happy to second for discussion.
Councillor Mallard.
Mr. Mayor, look, we did, when we adopted the previous resolution, a number of us did speak about concerns around fireworks, and we did insert or other alternatives to be part of the investigation. I'm not convinced that the proposal to have it out at the lake mitigates the problems with fireworks. There's still a risk that if it's a total fire ban, that it disrupts the plan to have it. It puts a lot of regulatory effort in. Fireworks still have an impact, while there might be fewer residences with pets out that way. There's still native wildlife out there, and there's the impacts that has. I don't think firing things up in the air and making them explode, they're all going to magically fall just down over the water. You're still dispersing things into the air. So I think a number of the environmental, the animal welfare, the health issues with fireworks still exist. I think there is a perfectly reasonable, entertaining alternative that's available. And so I could only support going ahead with the event if we take that approach. Thanks.
Councillor McDonald was next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not entirely sure where I'm voting on this at the moment, but I did want to speak to a couple of things, and I've got a couple of questions. Firstly, I'm sort of wondering whether this is something that we probably should have had a workshop on, so that we have a bit more of a chance to understand what all the process was. Secondly, was Jack Brabham ever considered? Third question is, have we spoken with the police regarding sort of patrolling if it was out at the lake. I have big sort of red flags when we have alcohol and water mixing. So in terms of a safety, I know we've got talking about lifeguards and things here, but there's also is it going to be a glass-free zone? So is it going to be bag checks on the way in like they have out at the Balloon Glow in Canowindra? Because obviously if both areas are accessible by children, you have broken glass everywhere. Like, I don't know. How do we keep people contained? I've got so many questions about this. I think it actually probably should be deferred so that we can actually have a workshop on this.
Is that a shadow motion?
Yes, I will be foreshadowing a motion on that.
Councillor Kinghorn.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things. On page 58, so point 2, can we correct the spelling on the word sort to the appropriate spelling for sort under that context? S-O-U-G-H-T. Thank you. And I'm just curious as to what would be the launch site if they had fireworks out at the lake?
Rebecca?
Through you, Mr. Chair. We've got the far side of the lake as you're approaching through the door would be the launch site, and that would be excluded. So as you currently come in and you go down around past the break, you would not be able to access that. The gates would be shut and the launch spot would be on the far side. Or we're investigating an alternative of actually launching over the water. Obviously, there's a lot of more work that needs to be done to get to that, but at the backup would be on the far side, and that would be excluded, which is also part of the safety risk analysis.
Thank you.
Councillor Whitten was next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'm leaning towards the foreshadowed because I've often thought that Jack Brabham would be the ideal location because it's open. Because the lake is a superb location. Don't get me wrong, but it basically stops families from walking there. A lot of people, when we had it at Waratahs, a lot of the families would come and they'd simply walk there. So we're going to have the only way to get out there is via bus or via vehicle. So I really think that Jack Brabham would be the ideal location for a whole raft of reasons.
Councillor Miletto.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll be supporting the recommendation number 1. I think what the lake offers is something different, and having had the opportunity to go out to Forbes before last, I witnessed the excitement in the kids' faces with the different lights and stuff over the water. I don't think it's something we've really ever done in Orange that I can recall during my time. The only thing, and I was going to raise it, and Whitten has already done that, is I would like to see Orange City Council liaise with bus companies and see whether there is any probability of providing a public bus service out there for those people who don't want to take their vehicles. I think my concern...
Already in costings.
Sorry. Just to make sure that's done, because my concern would be that if we can minimise the amount of vehicles travelling out there, encourage people to use those bus facilities, it can only be a good thing.
Councillor Floyd.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm speaking in favour of this proposal tonight. I can remember speaking with ex-director Rob about this proposal earlier on in the year, and I've got here, and mainly Director Rob, discussed how excited we were about this. Director Rob was over the moon about this. She was really, really happy about this proposal coming together. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank Chris Rawlins and the staff for the work they've put into this proposal. It's absolutely outstanding. And as is stated, it's touted as a flagship event encompassing Lake Canobolas, which is an absolute stroke of brilliance, I think. It falls in line with both our community strategic plan and our operational plan. The proposal is impressive, and I expect nothing less from this council than a top shelf event out there that will appeal to all facets of our community. And of course, as we've discussed, with every initiative, it comes with its own set of issues and challenges. that require addressing. I realise this, and this one will be no different. But I look forward to the council working with all the stakeholders, business owners, and everyone to make this community event absolutely brilliant for visitors and for the community, and to set a very high benchmark for future New Year's activities, not only in Orange but around the whole Central West. And I also look forward to seeing a councillor workshop down the track so we can discuss how this initiative is tracking and find out about things, as Councillor Peterson said, about parking and things like that. So really looking forward to this, and yeah, certainly 100% behind the motion as it stands.
Councillor Duffy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. My concern is, along with Councillor McDonald and Councillor Whitten, as regards to the parking and access to the people who are out there and being in the dark where you can walk around and see when you've got young children and all those type of things that like fireworks. And I'm fully 100% behind the fireworks, although I do think there probably are a number of locations where this could happen, and one is Jack Brabham, as has been located, also one maybe the showground and maybe Waratahs. But I think Waratahs is out of the question as far as I'm concerned, because there's a lot of dogs and houses around and those type of things there. But if you get out to Jack Brabham, that's not going to affect that many people whatsoever. So my main concern is we do get the fireworks back. And the other issue about Lake Canobus is if there's a total fire ban, where do we go? And that's my concern. Royal Fire Service overrides us.
Councillor Greenhalgh.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, this one's a really tricky one for me. I don't think I can support it in its current form. I too am a big believer that Jack Brabham should have been considered. It's not necessarily the fireworks that I have an issue with. For me, working in the alcohol industry, I'm concerned about alcohol and water. That for me, that's a big red flag. I know there's going to be separate areas. How do we police that? How do we police the alcohol coming in? Purchase it in there. What did Forbes have? Was it alcohol free? You know, I don't want to be the fun police, but I do have some concerns around that. And yeah, I wished we had the opportunity to workshop this a little bit more, because I'd love to see a flagship event that's got a point of difference and, you know, provides that sort of fun back into that time of year. But yeah, there's just a few things I'm not comfortable with from that perspective.
Councillor Greenhalgh. I want to talk about, I just want to ask a question whether we can involve fireworks and laser shows out at the lake at the same time in case there is a problem with the weather that the fireworks get called off, and you could go to that laser show, or incorporate both maybe?
Your budget limitations there might be fairly excessive. So the cost of the laser show is not that dissimilar to the cost of the firework.
I absolutely think the lake would be marvellous, and I've got full confidence in our staff that would be able to put on an event like we do other night events, that we do hire in lighting towers for people to cross roads. There's security. The red flag to me is the water with after dark, and how do we keep people out of the water. I'd probably want to have a yarn about this before I make any decision, so I'll be waiting for the shadow amendment, hopefully. Any other speakers? I'll put the amendment first. All those in favour? This is for lasers. Against? 8. Yeah. 10-2. Yeah. And
I'd like to move an amendment then that we defer this and have a workshop.
Second that. So we've got a mover and a seconder. You have to?
Yeah.
So you're speaking for the amendment? Sorry?
Sorry.
It's for a workshop, to defer it for a workshop. Thank you. Councillor Whitten, you're speaking for the amendment.
Correct, yeah. The reason I'm supporting the amendment, Mr Mayor, like the lake is a beautiful spot, but New Year's Eve in Australia is in the middle of summer, and the fuel out there on Mount Canobolas and the risk, like it is one of our tourist attractions, and I wouldn't like to be the one that sets that area alight with fireworks. So, and with the alcohol, with the water. Traditionally in Orange growing up, when we had fireworks, Barrett Wade Park when the city was a little bit smaller, but the families would walk to the events, right? So somewhere like Jack Brabham Park, it's flat, it's open. If we do have fireworks, which I hope we do, the risk is way less. There's always risk with fireworks, but the fuel out there's, and at the moment we have a big pile of dirt we could use as a launching pad, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I just thought I'd throw that in. So I think it would be a much more ideal location and be much more family friendly.
Well, we'll discuss that at the briefing session. Okay, I think we've all had a yarn on this. Or can I put I'll put the amendment. All those in favour? Against? The amendment comes a motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. Item 5.3, Crown Land Agreement update. Can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Seconded by Councillor Whitten. Any speakers? Councillor Whitten. Sorry, Councillor.
Come on.
I'm very
Look,
sorry.
I've had enough insults.
I'm very sorry.
Had enough insults in your life. No need to add 30 or 40 of them to it.
To formally put on public knowledge that I apologise about that.
Apology accepted, Mr. Mayor.
You'll put a code of conduct on them.
Yeah, I owe you 2 drinks, but you mightn't get them. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a good result for the Land Council. I do. I first of all want to congratulate the staff who spent a lot of time and effort in going through the whole process where we went with the Land Council, we went with the state government at the time, and our staff did that. And I think Nick Redmond probably needs a pat on the back. I don't know whether you're here, Nick. You put a lot of effort into that, and I think it was fantastic. I thought the result was pretty good right from the word start, but the government sort of somehow pulled the pin on it. And I'm very pleased, and I heard that the Land Council did go into bat for us to get the land that the stadium's going on, which is absolutely fantastic. But I think it's a great result for them, and I'm just disappointed in the effort that we put because we won an award for the whole process. It could have been something that could have been worked out over the whole across Australia to come up with solving issues that between the land councils and councils themselves right throughout Australia. That part I'm disappointed in, but I'm happy to support the resolution and just acknowledge it.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to ask a question on the detail on page 64. The state government changed their mind on divesting some of the land to Orange City Council. And given the change, does that sort of hurt our bottom line, or are these assets never on our books anyway, so it's just an opportunity cost for the future rather than paying right now?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yeah, no, there are no bottom line impacts. And we do, if we do get the land, the 2 pieces of land, Brabham and the sports precinct, there's no depreciation on land. So this will not hurt our books.
Thank you. Councillor Whitten.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, look, I concur with some respects to Councillor Duffy. We still have to remember that that the cooperation between the Land Council and Council and the relationship and partnership is still there. So nothing's changed from our point of view. So we move forward in the spirit of cooperation, and I commend the council staff for all of the hard work that they've done to this point.
Councillor Mallard.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and thanks to the staff for the report. Yeah, look, I think overall this is actually everything has turned out great, basically. I think it's really important that what the Land Council has achieved out of this, and I know, this process was basically the previous government's way of dealing with the fact that successive governments over decades hadn't dealt with the backlog in Aboriginal land rights claims. When I used to work for a state MP, the first thing I would do when the Auditor General's report on Crown Lands came out was look at how many land claims remained unresolved from the 80s, from the 90s, from the 2000s and from the 2010s. So, yeah, all of that opportunity for economic development that has been denied to both our local land council and the land council network. This process has given an opportunity, and through us being the first ones who were in this negotiation process, I'm glad we were able to achieve that. I actually think it's also good that we're not getting land divested to us. The concern around this process was, and I know Councillor Duffy is always talking about cost shifting, was that this was going to be another way for state governments to put pressure on local councils around cost shifting, and that what we would be at risk of is councils are in a financially unsustainable position. We know the financial model's broken. We get into a bad financial position. They've transferred all of this land to local councils. They're able to say, hey, look at all of these assets you've got on your book. Why don't you consider reclassifying and selling off some of your public land? The public land is now remaining as Crown land, apart from that's been transferred to the Land Council. So I think this is a great situation where we still get to manage the parcels of Crown land that we have management of, but we don't end up opening ourselves to that future financial pressure and risk. So, yeah, appreciate the report, commend the local Aboriginal Land Council, and clearly, yeah, the way we have seen partnership and agreement through this and the opportunities that creates going forward are really important and useful, both for us but also for the Land Council. Thanks.
Councillor Miletto.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I totally support the report. I just have one question. It's regard to the non-land agreement. Has significant been the transfer of ownership of council-owned facility at 79 to 81 Kite Street. I ask the question is, my understanding is from my past history on council is that was designated or proposed as part of an entrance or an exit to the Woolworths car park. I guess my question is what are the alternatives now if we plan to develop the car park into the future? What other exit and entry points would we have?
Mr Redmond, thank you.
Mr Chair, the last master plan we had looked at, which didn't eventually proceed, dealt with some issues of egress onto Kite Street. There were also some issues around that, traffic onto near a school. So one of the options we had then improve access onto Anson Street and onto Dale Street. So we did lose that opportunity into the future, but the last master plan didn't rise on that end.
Thank you.
Any other speakers? I'll just say I'd like to congratulate Nick and his team for the work. It was nearly 4 years' work and the goodwill shown by everyone. And we were down in Sydney getting this accolade for this agreement and first council in Australia to do it, and it was going to be a pilot program and all this. It's just disappointing that all that work. We've got some outcomes, but all that work that went into it, I wish they would have told us that at the start. But the main outcome is that we've still got that fantastic relationship with the Land Council. So
the award,
and yeah, we still got the award. That was good. That's still on the trophy cabinet.
The cheque. Don't give the cheque back, Mr Mayor.
All right. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. I'll go into closed meeting. The Chief Executive Officer will now advise the Council if any written submissions have been received relating to any item advertised for consideration by closed meeting of Orange City Council.
Chair, I have no such submissions.
In accordance to Local Government Act 1993, the Local Government General Regulation 2021, in the opinion of the Chief Executive Officer, the following business is of kind as referred to Section 10A2 of the Act and should be dealt with a confidential session of council meeting closed to the press and public. 6.1, entering into contracts for supply and delivery of bitumen emulsion. 6.2, proposed sale 4616 Mitchell Highway, Lucknow, and tender 6.44180 Orange Sports Precinct, irrigation, drainage and establishment of multi-purpose fields and turf cricket cricket squares. All are classified confidential under the provision of Section 10A2C. Information that would be disclosed confer a commercial advantage on a person with whom the council is conducting or proposes to conduct business. And 6.3, submission reductions, report for June 2024 is classified confidential under the provision of Section 10A2E. Information that would be, if disclosed, prejudice maintenance of law. Can I have a mover that we go into sync? Moved by Councillor Power, seconded by Councillor Whitten. All those in favour? Against?